Etzebeth, he was jumping on the couch and running around. And
you guys, as a team, I suppose almost force teams to play differently as well.
That is for us the motivation to bring hope in the country.
See you guys in the final. I was just like, yo, these guys are making a big mistake.
Right, we're in the studio, lads. You buzzing? Eben, we'll start with you, mate. You've come a long way to be here. That's commitment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a long travel, long day of training, but yeah, nice to see two familiar faces again.
Yeah, no, it's awesome to have you. We were just saying, Eben loves the media stuff, Vinny. He's all over it.
He was buzzing as well. Training couldn't wait to walk on the field. I knew we were going to sit in our traffic. But yeah, like you said, it's always nice seeing you guys. And I'm very proud of you. Lovely studio.
Thank you. It's not all mine.
You just say it's all yours.
Yeah, it's all mine. Yeah.
Well, Vinny, the reason you're on, we want some dirt on Jim from his Saris. That's why you're on. We're not actually going to ask any questions. We're just going to let you go and just chuck it all out there.
Please.
What you got? There's nothing. I was all right, Saris, weren't I?
I'm just glad you recovered from your broken back. You know.
Yeah,
I told him the story.
It's quite amazing that you recovered and walking again. And last time I saw you, you couldn't bend down, you couldn't run.
I couldn't touch my knees. Eben, that's what warriors do, mate. That's what Scottish warriors. They just got on. They just didn't moan. Basically, Vinny laughing there was how I ended my career at Saris. Like an absolute disgrace. There's so much we can talk about, right? I know, so I don't want to bombard you with everything, but just kind of generally after the World Cup, it was absolutely epic. I don't know if you've been watching Chasing the Sun too, but I'm a super fan. I've been watching it. But as in even me reliving the moments that you went through as players was just crazy. Have you managed to sit back?
Yeah.
I know, Vinny, you're the same, but I mean, he features quite a lot.
You just liked it because you were on the show.
I was on it for about 3 seconds, and I did 4 hours of filming. So
no, it's been great. Obviously, after the World Cup, we had about 2 weeks to take everything in, and then we started the Sharks again. So there wasn't much downtime, but like you said, watching Chasing the Sun again, I think most of those memories comes back to you. And geez, all that stress with those last 3 games, winning by 1 point, was incredible. Reliving that again, but no, otherwise good. Like when he said, life is good in Durban. Winter almost approaching South Africa, but there's never winter in Durban, so always great weather. Obviously, a little one is now 3 months old. Great to be a dad, probably my biggest achievement of my life. So
hardest or not?
Yes, hardest as well.
That's why they wanted to stay in London for a week. 3-month-old in the house. He's a smart man. He's a smart man.
But, I was just on that. I love that how like you can win a World Cup, you can be fighting whoever, be one of the best in the business, but having a child, that's the leveler, right? That's the emotional one that will push your buttons, right, Eben?
Yeah, I think all the dads always tell me, you can't explain until you hold that little one in your hands for the first time, and you know that feeling. I mean, you guys would know it's incredible if you hold your own child in your hands. Missing them now. It's been a week, so yeah, 1 more week and I'm back with the family.
Yeah. Lads, I just wanted to pick up. I know you said that it's been tough after the World Cup, and you've got obviously a big game this weekend, but the season's sort of coming to a close. How do you guys keep motivated, I suppose, for coming back off back-to-back World Cups, going into the Rugby Championship, won it all, been there, done it 100 times? What is that first week of Springbok camp going to be like when you meet back up? What's the goals? What's the aims? And what's the motivation moving forward now, considering you've just gone back-to-back World Cups?
Yeah, I think for us, after 2019, we didn't really get a chance to play on home soil. We didn't play any test match in 2020 because of COVID. So now it's the first year actually after the World Cup we can go back, play 6 test matches in front of home fans, and obviously they are very excited. I think big drive for us will be to take the World Cup success into, because to be honest, between World Cups we haven't won all the test matches. We haven't been as successful as we wanted to be. So I think we would like to change that, be successful this year in the test matches, and there's obviously some massive ones coming up, so it's going to be a massive challenge for us. But yeah, for me personally, just pulling on that Springbok jersey, I mean, we're all internationals in this room, and you guys would know playing for your country is the biggest honor you can have, and even after winning 2 World Cups, to just get another test match under my belt, that's my motivation, and that's what drives me.
I know you mentioned the first, I think the first test you boys played was against us in front of the home crowd. Was it at Loftus? in front of home
Yes.
crowds. And for me, I mean, I've played a lot of rugby in my career, but that atmosphere that day was the best atmosphere I've ever played at. It was just literally incredible. You could tell that the whole country had sort of waited for that moment after the 2019 World Cup, and it was pretty special, to be fair.
Yeah, like with that as well, Vinny, and I've been fueling the fire a little bit, but like in a good way. Like I've always spoke highly of South African rugby, and not until I've seen, and excuse the language here, the data points of interest in South Africa, both online, social media, the stuff that we're doing at Rugby Pass TV, the subscriptions and stuff. Football is tribal in the UK, and you've played here, and you know that as well. But rugby in South Africa is just, it's life, isn't it? That, and I imagine winning the World Cup, where you've gone home, like it's mental, the engagement right into the game.
Yeah, of course. The thing is, as a rugby player, you grow up with rugby. You know, you sit with your dad as a kid watching it. So I think that's how everyone grows up. Is if you're born, you watch rugby, kind of thing. You know, and for us, that is one of the sports that's been quite successful in our country. You know, like
Quite.
Yeah.
Humble.
Being humble,
Humble, mate. I know, I've got you.
And yeah, the thing is, it just brings the country together. The thing is, the last 2 World Cups, we said that is our drive, is to play for the country, for the people in South Africa, and it's been our motivation. But to give back to the people back home that couldn't be at the World Cup, for example, or that is struggling in South Africa, that is for us the motivation to bring hope in the country, and just to put a smile. Like, you can't probably give hope for the full year, but at least if it's one day, then we've done our job. And yeah, that's why I think we love it, because we do it for that reason. And yeah, rugby is massive in South Africa.
Yeah, because on that, I've been chatting to Damien, I'm name dropping here, so I sound like a bit of a knob, but chatting to Damien De Allende in Japan and Peter Steff, it felt like them being in Japan was almost like a bit of a welcome break, because of just how crazy it was after winning the World Cup. You're one of the most recognisable faces anyway, regardless of that. But to get, what's it like for you? Like, are you enjoying that? Vinny, you tell me,
Can
what's
I
it like
answer
for
that?
him? Go on.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I can't go anywhere with this guy. Like, I just want to go for a quiet meal, and then.
Is it crazy?
Actually, I came up with a nice plan. Like, I think I'm going to get that zapper to where you can tap your cards, and when everyone wants to take a picture, I'm just going to bring that thing out. I'll be a millionaire in a day, you know. Yeah, no,
A multi-millionaire, you mean?
I mean, in pounds. I mean, yeah.
How does, so for, and we'll get your
Yeah.
take on it, Eben, in a minute. But like, is it crazy? Can you see why someone like Peter Steff and Damien, again, who are recognised, just like yourself, Vinny, as well,
No,
but humble
yeah.
man. But is it crazy?
No, it's mad. I think this one, after this World Cup, it's just exploded even more, you know. So yeah, hanging around with him, especially now being teammates as well in Durban, I can just see it. But it makes me happy, you know. Like, everyone watches rugby in South Africa now. And yeah, to see people running around, shouting his name, asking for photos, although it's sometimes while we're having a meal. Yeah, but I'm lucky who I am, and he can take all that heat, because yeah, it's sometimes tough.
Do you enjoy that side of it, Eben, or is that slightly uncomfortable for you when you're out and about with the family or whatever? Is that something you're comfortable with?
I want you to say you love it. I hope you do.
Yeah, look, I'll definitely miss it one day. But like Vinny said, like, sometimes you do want to have a quiet meal with your family and your wife and your kid. But I mean, just to come back and to see the support and the people supporting us, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why a guy like Sia is in France as well, because I mean, and just to explain to you the difference between the 2 World Cups in 2019, when we got back, it was probably Sia and about 3 or 4 guys who couldn't really move around South Africa without being bothered quite a lot. Like, after this World Cup, it's probably 20 out of the 33 guys that gets bombarded, and it's not just fans. It's obviously they aligning with companies, people want to sponsor them, and obviously it's great in that regard. But I mean, with that comes people. Obviously, wherever you go, people want a piece of you, and the guys enjoy it. But I must say, after 2023 World Cup, it's been times 5.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think it is so much bigger after this World Cup, Eben?
I think the support just got more. I think obviously as soon as Sia became captain, we obviously more people in South Africa, if I can call it, felt inclusive in the Springbok environment. And obviously, he became captain 2018. A year later, we won the World Cup. So that's 2 years. And I think over the past six years, still leading up to 2023, just more and more people of all cultures like bought in. Obviously, Sia after 2019 World Cup, he made a big difference in giving back to the community. And I mean, people see that and people support that. And I think that just build everything up. And you have a guy like Oxen and Mapimpi, and like, so all the small children and people in South Africa see a role model, whether it's a farm boy, they see Peter Steff running out there and they think they can achieve that, or it's a little kid from the township who maybe doesn't think he has a future, but then he looks at a guy like Sia or Mapimpi and he sees, flip, I've got a future. So I think we just, like, everyone felt included and everyone felt like the Springboks can make them smile and they can actually have a purpose and they can maybe also make it one day. So I think, everyone just bought into it more and more.
Yeah, so cool. What do they say to you when they come up to you then, Eben? What kind of things when they come up to you? Is it like thank you? Is it like...
Well, I don't know if you saw that video after the French game, the Elisabeth video.
No.
So
No, go on, explain that.
Yeah.
there was a kid, a black kid watching the game. And when I scored that try, almost at the end, he was shouting up and down, and obviously he couldn't pronounce Etzebeth.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And he shouted Elisabeth. He was jumping on the couch and running around. And that video in South Africa probably became one of the most viral videos. So 70% of people who doesn't know me in South Africa calls me Elisabeth at the moment. So that's like my second name at the moment. So yeah, that became very viral, and everywhere, like, I mean, you can ask Vinny everywhere I go. That's not what people call me. Well, they probably say thank you to Ox and Vinny in France for all the scrums, but to me they just say Elisabeth, and it was actually such a great moment.
What makes, because clearly this team that you guys are in at the minute is special is probably an understatement, but what makes it so special? Is it the people? Because to me, every time I've played against you boys, and this is meant in the biggest way possible as a compliment, we know exactly what is coming from you guys. Exactly. We've planned for it. We plan not to kick the ball off the park. We plan to limit limit the knock-ons, the discipline, etc. But it's just so difficult to stop. And I think for me, that's what makes you boys even more special, the bond, the coaches, the players. So I just wanted to get a bit of an insight, what, from a player's point of view, makes it so special that everybody knows what's coming when they play you, but not many teams can stop it, sort of thing.
Yeah, the thing is, it didn't come overnight, when Rusty and Jock and the coaching staff joined, we said, of course, we needed a culture. We needed the right guys to actually perform, and so it's been a long process. And the thing is, it's actually unbelievable being in that environment where everyone just gets along. We don't have fights on the field, off the field, stuff like that. Everyone buys into the plan. The culture is so strong that everyone is aligned, kind of thing. And the thing is exactly what you said. Like every team that analyzes Springboks know exactly what is going to come. But I think we just always try to be deliver what we can do, our best on the day. So we know we've got a good scrum and teams are going to target that, but in our minds, we want to have the best scrum, kind of thing. So we train unbelievably hard to, of course, master those things. And then the thing is just like what Eben said, the different backgrounds we come from, it hasn't always been easy. So the guys are there to fight, till the last minute. Or the thing is for us, it's just to never die, never give up kind of attitude we have. And I think that's probably one of our strengths in the team is we all from different backgrounds. None, I would say one or two boys probably went to private schools or whatever, but the rest are all guys who fought their way through the system, who maybe didn't have a chance when they were younger, but then they showed that like they're going to write their own story, kind of thing. And for me, this group is just special because of that, and yeah, I would say that's probably why.
Eben, do you think that why is stronger than perhaps other nations?
Mate, you've not seen Chasing the Sun, have you?
Yeah.
It tells you about why. This is what I mean.
That's what I mean. Do you
100%, yeah.
That why? Because there's so many games which I've played against you boys, watched obviously the 1 point wins in the quarters, the semis, the final. but so many other games where there's one score games and you boys just come out on the right side. Do you think that why makes that 1, 2, 3% difference in the grand scheme of things in big matches?
Yeah, I think like Vincent said, it's where guys come from. And even when I was chasing the sun, you probably saw the story about Kirtley. I mean, he went to varsity and he played and didn't get a contract. And he went to work in a butcher, and he was working in a butcher for I don't know how long, but I know the guy he worked with told him that you'll do great things one day. And Kirtley said he almost gave up, but his grandmother kept on believing him, and now he's a World Cup champion. And each guy has their own story, and Jock also mentioned it during the World Cup and in that documentary that the guys part of the World Cup, like the script for them was never to probably become a Springbok, because I mean if you look at where Mampimpi comes from and Sia, and even I mean I can name a lot of guys. He wasn't in a big school, I wasn't in a big school. We come from difficult backgrounds and not the best pathways, but we all fought our way to be where we are today. And I think that might have come out in the bigger games. It was never perfect. We were always it was never a runaway game, but we know when it comes to fighting for something, we can get stuck in and keep in it.
And with that, that's where it's so powerful when you watch it, and you've got a real treat when you come in to watch it. But I'm a super fan, but it's something that kind of fueling it means more, and you hear these conversations all the time happening. I was just saying to the guy, so when I was in Japan, I spoke to Adi Surveyor and Brody Retallick, and naturally we were talking about the All Blacks Springbok rivalry and how the Springboks, it means more, and obviously the final, 3 World Cups apiece, playing for the 4th. And I said to Adi, I said, when you chat to any Springboks or you hear them talk, they always talk about it means more, or they're playing for something bigger. I said, being an All Black, I was like, what do you have? You have the hacker, right, that builds you up. And he stood there and he said, you know what, that's probably what we need to address, we need to look at, is what are we playing for? Because they're very systematic in their approach. And here comes the question, actually. But they're very systematic in their approach, and it's been great for the All Blacks in terms of how they play, the leading the charge and counter-attack and attacking style and all of these things in innovation. But what I pick up from the doc, and what I love most, having been a player, and a player who did enjoy these words that I'm going to throw out now, the violence, the chaos, is that Rassie and Jacques and Eben and Peter Steph and Dwayne, all the lads that speak and see her, they constantly use them phrases. You talk about Eben, what rugby is, and we've gone away from that, I think, globally. But now we look towards the world champions, where in order to win a game of rugby at the highest level, you need to be violent. You need to win collisions. You need to be desperate. Do you know what I mean? These are things, Eben, where I think in rugby, there's a big argument on this, where we need to play faster rugby. Chat to Eddie Jones. He didn't like the Springbok way. He wants to play fast, offloading style. Richie Mwanga. He loves Cheslin Colby for that. He doesn't believe in the physical stuff, but it's proven, and that is an intentional thing. I suppose the question is like, you are so comfortable to talk about what it is to win games and use them headline phrases, right?
Yeah, and it's also about getting the right guys. I think, like you said, that offload rugby and that running rugby is great in a Super Rugby in a URC, but it's not going to win you big championship in test matches. You need a guy, obviously a good kicking game, good set piece, and that's, yeah, we were fortunate enough to have those things. And you need a bit of, like you say, a bit of violence and fighting spirit, and guys knowing we knew what our strengths were. Our strengths were always good kicking game, good defense, set pieces, and yeah, we mix it up in attack a bit. But yeah, we always went back to those things because we knew in World Cup playoff games that's are you going to win games? Just like I remember that game in 2019 against Wales, that semi-final. That was
I was hoping that one wasn't coming up. Yeah,
that was one of the toughest test matches. And I actually watched that game a couple of weeks ago, and yes, that game was till the end. Like you couldn't know, because I think the style of play Wales played that day, and it's almost the same like England playing in semi-final last year. That almost the same style that we play in. Just so hard in a knockout game to beat a team that plays that way, because you're always on the front foot, because you put the other team under kicking pressure. They must feel kicks the whole time. And that battle in 2019 was just kick. And it was whoever got bored with the plan the first, it was probably going to lose the game.
What Eben says there is actually really, because what we planned for in 2019 was, we said, do not break. Do not give South Africa an in to your half. Do not allow them to have scrums, set piece, lineouts in your half, because that's going to put you under serious pressure. And I think for me, you guys as a team almost force teams to play differently as well. Because you know, when like Scotland played you guys in the World Cup, and Scotland just played one way, which was quite comfortable for you guys, and you were allowed to put pressure on them and pick off points. But when England put the pressure on you in that 2019 game, where we just kept going back and forth, it just turns it into a one-score game or a tight game, and that's when I suppose that Y or those 1%ers makes a huge difference. And for us, it puts so much pressure, and this is, I suppose, a roundabout way of saying how special your team is, that it puts so much pressure on us as a team. When we play you guys, we know that our set piece has to be good in our half. We know that our kicking game has to be good. And if it's not, you're getting punished. Or it takes one penalty like it did in 2019 for us not to be in a World Cup final and for South Africa to be there. So it's just, for me, it's been a bit of a privilege to play in the era of this great team, I suppose, and have so many good battles with you guys over the years. And when people have said, you mentioned it, Jim, about the Springbok way, and then I said the Springbok way is the winning way. Everybody else should be following that way, because it wins more games of rugby and it wins back-to-back World Cups.
And that's what annoys people, because because off the back of that, Vinny, it brings in the scrum, right? And was the big turning point. And watching you on the dock as well, like the front row all giggling, you know, it's crazy to think like you got the bomb squad there, the physicality, the dark arts of that, but doubling down on the violence, the chaos, and the scrum, the dark arts that you're built for. Like, how proud are you to be part of that group and have such an influence, and such an influence it had obviously in the England game, the semi-final, because effectively that is what won, obviously not the World Cup, but if you didn't win that game, you wouldn't have been in the final. And that was all based around the scrum. Have you had time to reflect?
Yeah, the thing is,
that?
we're actually in a very fortunate position to have very good front rows in South Africa. If you look at the starting or the bench, you can start or bench whoever, you know. So we're very fortunate with that. And for me being a member of the bomb squad, vice captain probably now.
Self-proclaimed member of the bomb squad.
I love
that.
Yeah. Hey, I'm all for that.
Yeah, played 49 games. I think 8 was a start. The thing is, like, we've got a plan where the starters, of course, put poison in the legs and make
Put what?
Poison.
Poison in the legs. You like that, Rob? Look at Rob.
Yeah.
He's shaking.
The thing is just to wear them out, you know. And for us on the bench, it is the most exciting thing to come on, you know. And just our job is to finish the game, and to get penalties when we get on. And I think the game against England, when Ox came on, and I also later come on, I knew that, listen, I've got one job to do, you know. And for us, that was to get dominance in the scrum. And yeah, I mean, scrumming gains next to a guy like Ox and Bongi, it makes my life easier, you know. But yeah, it's always nice to be part of a team that focus on that, because we put a lot of emphasis and train quite a lot in that department. And yeah, the thing is, it's nice to see a reward, especially like the last penalty coming off a scrum. It just shows that the hard work pays off.
Yeah, I was going to ask about like hard work paying off, unsung heroes. Okay, and I don't know who the 20 are that have gone back and that are superstars, but I can kind of imagine. But Dion Fourie, for me, just, I mean, the story, Eben, is quite phenomenal. But actually what he did in that final was superhuman. Unbelievable. Him and Quagga Smith, for me, feel like the unsung. Are they unsung or not? Are they at home as rock stars now?
Yeah, I think Dion is probably, I mean, his story is incredible. And watching Chasing the Sun again and seeing, I mean, we came back from France to come play for, well, first of all, I think, personal opinion, like back then when he was at the Stormers, he was a bit underrated. I think he was unlucky not to get a Springbok cap in the first place. Obviously went to France to finish his career, and then come back to the Stormers to probably play a couple of matches off the bench and call it quits. But yeah, the Dion Fourie I knew back in 2012 when I started at the Stormers, he was always a fighter. I was not the biggest man in the room, but I mean, he's got some dog in him. He's a real fighter, and yeah, making his debut, I think, against you guys in that Bloem test match.
Bloemfontein,
and going on to be selected for the World Cup, and probably going to the World Cup thinking he'll play against Tonga and Romania and not many more matches. And then Malcolm went down, and the plan was for Bongi to go 80 in the quarter semis and final. And then in the final, I mean, what, second minute or first minute?
Third minute, I think,
goes down. And I mean, just on Bongi, that guy, look, is not the most skillful hooker in the world or the fastest hooker, but that guy is probably one of the hardest men in world rugby, and he will carry with his head into a wall, and he just loves scrumming, and he hates losing. He hates going back in a scrum, and he almost never does. So he's massive for us in that regard, in the scrum department, all over the field as well, but especially scrumming. And when he went down, it was a bit of panic under the coaches and some of the players. I don't know if I can call it panic, but now Dion must step in. He actually came as a flanker, and now he must play 77 minutes in a World Cup final against the All Blacks. And yeah, just what he did, and how he stood his man and actually came on and performed. You won't get a better story than that, I think, in rugby.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It really is.
Really is amazing.
I went back and watched it, Biggs, and like you said, because they're masking it by saying, "Oh, yeah, he's played hooker." You know, he's played hooker before. It's back row, isn't he? Like, there's a big difference. Like I was saying, Vinny, it's the hardest position because it's so specialist. You're in the middle of the scrum. You got to throw the ball in. He's 43. He's been in the arse under France. Mega, hey?
Yeah, it's massive. But again, back to how we train, you know, we said, listen, that this might be a possibility. And of course, when things happened, we threw him into the deep end. And like I said, none better guys to work with is Bongi, of course, opposite him, but having Kitsi, France, Ox, and those guys next to him, it just makes his life a bit easier as well. But yeah, massive, unbelievable story. Played a massive game in the final, and stepping up like that. I know in the documentary they said he had a shoulder injury as well. I can actually remember that. And just playing that type of performance in a final was unbelievable to watch.
I actually remember, he made his debut against Wales, and then the next week we played them again in Cape Town, and then that night we normally have our initiation. And he actually, after his initiation, I think it was, 35, 36, he actually cried because what it meant to him. Because he waited for how many years, and he finally got his shot, and he was the proudest man in South Africa, just getting his cap at last, and then going on a year and a half later and playing in a World Cup final, winning, playing 77 minutes. I mean, it's, like I said, it's the best story.
Eben, trust me when I say this. A few of the Welsh boys give him an initiation on Saturday night in Cape Town after the third test. I can promise you that. We made sure we had a good drink for him on Saturday night for him.
Yeah. What does initiation look like then? So, what are you laughing at?
Do you remember the night after the third test? It was in the suite in the Cape Town Stadium, and I think obviously it was our end of season, and sort of we were cutting loose a little bit. These guys were sort of just chilling, sitting back, being a bit more sort of chilled, and we were just sort of letting loose. And it was a brilliant atmosphere, wasn't it? Because we just had, it wasn't like it was the Springboks just in one corner and us in one corner. It was very much boys having a beer together, chatting through the game. I remember me and Cheslin had a big sort of bust up really in that series in the first test, and we ended up sharing a beer, grabbing a photo and things. And I think that's what you mentioned it earlier, Jim, in terms of like the violence and what the style of South African players are. But when you come off the pitch, it's they're as good a blokes as anybody. They're as good a teammates as anybody, and I think the respect that they show off the field is there to see as well. So it was a good night. I can't remember what the place was called in Cape Town. I have to find it. We stayed in what's the hotel? Cullinan?
Yeah.
In Cape Town?
Yeah, we stayed next door to you guys. Yeah.
So we were there for the day and things. So yeah, we made sure he had a good initiation. There,
What does an initiation look like, Eben?
It's quite a sacred thing. You do a couple of dance or singing and stuff, and then it goes into a bit more intense things.
Come on then. Can you share or not, or is it
No, I
private? You
can't,
don't have to.
it's
Oh, I
quite
love
private,
that.
yeah.
It's been too loose.
what was your initiation?
Singing a song and having a drink with everyone in the team. Flaming
Okay.
Sambucas.
I was a bit more physical.
Yeah, I bet it is. It's a bit more physical. Oh my goodness me! Right, a little bit more. Have you got another one?
I was just going to ask the question. Obviously, with Sia being based in Paris, the Springbok captaincy sort of up for grabs a little bit. Is that, first of all, Eben, you're probably the name that everyone's talking about, one of the most experienced, the most experienced guy in the team now. Is that something that you would relish and want? And also, to me, from personal experience, for me, I know Sia's this pin-up guy and the inspirational leader, and quite rightly so. But for me, it looks as if your team is just stacked from your front row to your second row to your back row to your 9 and 10 to your 15, just full of leaders. So it almost matter who is captain in that sense, because there's so many great players there, and is that something that you would be interested in?
Yeah, I think whoever is captain, our things won't change. Our processes won't change that much. Like when Sias was captain, you get a guy on the field who will speak to the ref about lineouts, or a guy, if we get together, he speaks about whether our physicality is up to standard or whether our work rate is up to standard. So I think that will stay the same. If I get an opportunity, it will be wonderful. If I don't get the opportunity, also wonderful. As long as I'm hopefully a part of the team, and I know whoever is captain, the other leaders in the team will support that guy. And it will always be the biggest honor in South African rugby to be captain of the Springboks. But yeah, obviously not a big transplant if I'm not. I think there's some great candidates out there, and Sia can still be captain. He's playing good rugby in France, and I think he'll always be a part of the squad, and would love for him to still be captain. But that's up to the coaching staff, whoever they pick. All the other leaders will back that guy.
Again, in the doc, Eben always has final say, though, at the end, before they break. So the final words in the huddle, then break. That was like me. That's what I used to do. No one was listening. Everyone's laughing, aren't they, Vinny? I'm just shouting.
You were
white
quite
noise.
physical as well when you were
Thanks,
player.
mate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And dirty.
Okay. And dirty. Yeah. That was it.
Got a cheap shot from one game.
It was an open hand. It was the most powerful open hand.
You bragged about that. That's Harry's.
I did not brag about that at all. I might have bragged about it when I was 33 and in my prime. I'm 41 now and very vulnerable. Vinny, what happens after the World Cup now? You're on a WhatsApp chat. Is there alumni? What happens? Like, do you stay in contact? Is Rassie sending funny pictures or videos or anything?
No, we're actually very chill. Like, of course, everyone's back to their clubs, but we do still have our WhatsApp groups. But yeah, the thing is, like Eben said, we didn't have much break. I had a bit longer than the other guys. But yeah, we focus on where we are now for the club, and of course you get back into the Springbok setup, you have to perform for your clubs. So our main focus is on the games we have now. And yeah, maybe in a few years, in 10 years time, we'll revisit that WhatsApp groups and then have a few drinks.
And what about building, Eben, to the next one? Because I know the South Africans, it's like it is the 4-year build, right? About doing 3 in a row, chasing the sun 3. Maybe a different mindset to other teams. But what is the rebuild? What does it look like for the Springboks?
Yeah, first of all, I think great that Rassie's still in charge, or actually back as a head coach. It would have been a big thing to lose him. He's massive for us, and the way he understands people and gets people to work together. He's incredible. And obviously, we've got some new coaching staff. So first thing for them is probably to come in, and they will have new ideas. So for us to take that on board and just believe in their plan as well, because they'll have different plans than Felix had or Jacques Naba had. So exciting times actually to work with them. And I think gets a bit of consistency between the World Cups. Obviously, we all know now 2027 is the next big one. But you do want to be competitive. You do want to win 1 or 2 rugby championships within this phase. We've got Ireland coming up. Obviously Wales first at Twickenham. But I mean that Ireland test matches. I think everyone except the Ireland and Springbok players are talking that one up. I mean, everyone's talking about that game. And
do you remember what you said to me after the game, or not?
I remember what I said to you.
Do you mind sharing it, or can I share it?
You can share it.
So we know the result of the game. So Ireland played really well. Springboks, a close game. And then there was one of the final plays of the game was Eben, I'm going to say it, got picked up by James Lowe. And that was they made this kind of big thing and the big hurrah. And then Zombie started blasting out. And then the lads are doing like the walk round to thank the crowd after. And then Eben saw him after, said, mate, how was that? And he obviously said it was a tough game. I says, fucking Ireland. He's like, mate, we'll get them back. We'll get them back if they make it.
Yeah.
That's what he said. If they make it, and they never did. They never made it. But now
Yeah.
they're coming back.
So the thing was, why I said that, so after the game, they were always you shake the guys' hands, and probably 12 out of the 23, when I shook their hand, they told me, see you guys in the final. And my immediate thought was, because the way the logs worked out, we were going to play France and they were going to play New Zealand. And my immediate thought was, are these guys seriously not even thinking about the All Blacks in a World Cup quarterfinal playing against them? So that remark, what they made, see you guys in the final, I was just like, yo, these guys are making a big mistake to look past probably one of the most dominant teams, or probably the most dominant team in the last 20 to 30 years of Test rugby. And I was just like, surely they can't. I mean, we would never say that too, because we know we are the host nation and we were going to have to pitch up to beat France in their backyard. And yeah, it just felt like they were just so confident saying things like that. See you in the final when you know you've got the mighty All Blacks coming up in the World Cup quarterfinal.
Did you say anything like when they said? Did you say if you get there?
Yeah, I said it in my head, and I remember sharing it. I think Frans Malherbe was with me, and I said, and with the Jaag, and I said, I don't know if these guys are riding a bit high, because obviously it's good to be confident, but you can never be arrogant in this game, because you can be here the next week and down.
It can shoot you down this
That's
game.
the thing about rugby. You can have the best season, and you can have one slip up or one missed tackle, and a guy puts you on your ass, and that's the beauty of this game. You never on top forever.
Yeah.
It's just another
You boys have done a good job for the last 8 years of being on top, mine. So
Yeah. I was going to ask Felix Jones. So he's now with England. No one was speaking about him before Biggs again. I keep repeating myself, but just from watching the doc, he seemed like he had a massive influence, Vinny.
Yeah,
within that squad. So Irish, he's from Ireland, he's now with England, but just his delivery and the way that he interacted and the respect that he had off Rassie and Jacques in the meetings, in the big moments, he seems like he was huge.
Yeah,
boys.
I think Eben will agree, and all the players that played underneath him, he's probably the most hardworking young coach I've ever seen in my life. The hours that he puts in off the field stuff, it's ridiculous. And his energy on the field when we train, it's something that you feed off, but his knowledge, watching the game, analyzing the players, is just ridiculous. And I think it's one of the coaches that we're definitely going to miss, because he played such a big role since he walked in. But yeah, he was one of the reasons why we were successful over the last few years. Me and Eben actually spoke this week, as like, he was unbelievable coach, and of course we're going to miss him, but we are super excited to get the new coaches in and to feed from them as well, and to see what they bring in. And but Felix Jones was just unbelievable, and a great person as well. He's a great guy off the field as well. But yeah, just credits to his hard working off the field was actually impressive to see.
Where his message is quite simple, because it looks like it's just very much a huge emphasis on line speed and stopping the ball getting to the edge. I mean, for you boys in the front five, generally the defence is pretty simple. It's about stopping collisions and winning collisions. But it looks whenever we sort of analysed playing against you guys, it was always it was always the line speed was so fast, but it was the recovery as well. So even if we got the ball over the top against you boys, it would be you, Eben, or Sia, or somebody would be chasing back and sprinting back and recovering. Is that something he put a massive emphasis on, or was it just simple messages the whole time?
Yeah, the thing is, of course, we worked on our line speed, but the thing is, what he drove quite a lot was work rate and effort around the park. And of course, you come off the line, but that's not your job done. You know, when you guys put the ball over or you make a line break, that doesn't mean you've done your job because you got off the line. And for him, that was one thing that he drove a lot: is how many actions or your second action or your action's not done after you've done one good thing. You know, and I think that stood out. What he brought is just the energy on the field was next level because he brought that in. He coached it. We trained it. Yeah, so he was always. You've done your job now really well, but that's not done yet, you know. And what you said when you kicked the ball over, of course, our second reaction was we have to make that tackle, and that's something that he drove quite a lot.
Like he's watching YouTube clips, so he's going above and beyond. He's watching YouTube clips from like years gone by and picking up like the words that they're using, like noir, black. For those of you who don't know,
you speak French as
fluent,
well.
fluent. Noir. Is that chocolate?
Yeah.
But like that's the level of detail. And I think people forget as well. They look at the Springboks and they think it's up and down. They think it's scrum, but it's the intricacies. And I'll finish on this because we'll get down to a bit of business. But going back on the talking of the intricacies, the final, and I know there was only one try. The All Blacks got the one try, but the physicality, but how on song, Eben, both teams were, like the closed defence, the relationship between Jesse Creel and Kirtley and Cheslin and the cover tackles. Like it, you tell me, Eben, what level was that final when you were playing at? Like from all the games you've played, it looked unbelievable. Everyone was talking about the quarterfinals, which were massive.
Yeah, no, it was incredible, and I think especially a backline, a guy like Jesse Creel. I mean, we're talking about unsung heroes. He's actually a guy we can also mention. Lucanio was one of the best players in the world, and he got injured. And Jesse was never. I mean, he's got I think over 60 test matches for the Boks, but he was never a guy who became negative, who started complaining. He just every week started working hard, and then there was time for. I mean, how many test matches didn't get picked, but one day he'll just go work harder again, and he'll go work harder. And then eventually he got his chance in the World Cup, and all that hard work showed. And I think that's the mentality we want to put out there for a guy who's not selected, and we try that as well with the Sharks. Like, just stay positive, but because when your time comes, then you must perform. Then you've been complaining. Well, Jesse hasn't been complaining, but some guys complain, and then they get a shot, and then they don't actually show what they're capable of. And a guy like Jesse, he just kept on working hard, and then at the end of the day, he played a World Cup quarter, semis, and final. He was incredible.
Yeah.
In that. On 13 is obviously big if you have a rush defense. 13 is quite a key position. And he was massive in leading that line, connecting with 12 and the wingers, and just comms. And also on attack, he was brilliant for us putting that putter through in that French game. No, he was massive. And yeah, it was just so intense. As you saw in Chasing the Sun, even Frans Malherbe said, he thought it was 5 minutes gone in the one game. It was 22 minutes gone. So it was incredible, intense games.
Final question on Jesse: Did he get you all a celebratory Rolex? Because I've heard he's the man to go to for Rolex watches. Is that right in the squad?
He keeps his contacts very close.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
he probably got one. But
we said whatever, because Corey Hill, who plays in Japan, he played in Canon with him. And he said Jesse Creel's basically dishing out Rolexes as if they're Casio. So all the boys were excited coming to South Africa, thinking they're going to pick up a cheap Rolex.
Are they Rolex or Jolex?
It could be Jolex, yeah. But he's supposed to be pretty well connected. So
I feel like I get a Rolex after this building up in this podcast now. So.
I'll talk to him up a storm. Eben, into a bit of business then, because it is game week, semi-final. How are you with all the travel? Because there's a lot of new South African players that we were talking about actually with the Bulls coming up to Northampton, and then they had a big game at home. So just firstly on that, there's a lot, isn't there, with the URC, and to make it into a semi-final of the Challenge Cup is a big thing for the South African teams.
Yeah, there is much more travel in the past, and I mean, obviously the Bulls got some criticism coming their way, but
What did you think of that?
look, I think that's Jake's goal. I think if you're a head coach, you must be able to select who you want to, and obviously going away in the I always say in the Champions Cup and actually Challenge Cup, you don't finish top 4, you don't have a home semi. The chance of you winning that comp is very low because then you must go away quarters and then you probably go semi away against Leinster and then you must play again in Europe against maybe a Toulouse. So it's always going to be difficult. They're lying pretty well in the URC, so they got a lot of criticism coming their way and maybe a bit unfair. I think I obviously saw some players also, Courtney Laws, mentioning something and it's a South African way. I don't know why he mentioned the whole of South Africa.
Have we got a message for Courtney?
He surely doesn't know what's going on in South Africa, so you must rather keep his mouth shut.
Yeah.
But for us, on the other end, we out of the URC. We had a pretty disappointing season so far. And the Challenge Cup is our big redemption. It can put a bit of a silver lining in our season. But we also know Clermont is also not doing well in the top 14, so they'll also be going for the semi-final massively. So it's two desperate teams, two teams that we saw the game that they played against Star. They're a big team, big back and forward, some unbelievable backs, running backs. It's going to be a tough game, but we obviously know this competition is our way of redeeming our season, and if we don't win it, very terrible season for us. I mean, you can't sugarcoat it. It's been horrible. But if we do go on and win it, then at least we have some silverware. First South African team to win silverware in Europe, and also a spot in next year's Champions Cup. So it's all or nothing for us. But we know they'll be desperate, and each team will always have plans. So we'll never write the team off. But yeah, massive for us.
What about the Sharks going forward, Vinny? Like Eben said, it's been a tough season, but like notoriously, historically, over years gone by, a lot of the super teams are quite iconic. But I know like Marco, the owner, and the marketing team, like they understand the kind of direction that rugby needs to go, that you need to go to. Well, you've got superstars in your team now playing, but just give us an idea of where you are at with the squad and the ambitions going forward.
Yeah, the thing is, like Eben said, we didn't have a great start, but we've got unbelievable players there, youngsters, new signings coming to the club, and for us, we want to be the best team in South Africa or the best team in the URC or in Europe, for us, that is our goals. Unfortunately, we couldn't reach it this year, but we're starting to rebuild for the mistakes we made in the beginning of the season. So I think there's exciting times coming, If you looked at our last 5 games, you saw that we're heading to the right direction. And like I said, with the new signings coming to the club, people actually want to come to the Sharks. That's always nice to see. But then again, the youngsters coming through as well, playing with kids that's 21 years old, which are already superstars and could potentially become Springboks soon, For me, that is exciting, sitting on the other side of the fence now, being a bit older, but to see the energy the young kids have and the desire for them to be successful and they're proud to wear the Sharks badge, and for me, that's the most exciting thing.
Yeah.
Give us maybe 1 or 2 names, someone who's 20, 21, maybe, which the listeners or people in the UK wouldn't be overly familiar with, who you think is going to be tearing up the URC next year, maybe getting into that Springbok camp. Give us a couple of names.
Yeah, the thing is, it's always difficult to give out a few names, but I mean, if I look at the backline, Ethan Hooker, I think he's 21 years old, unbelievable player. Then you get a guy in Eben's position, Corné Rol, he's a youngster as well, also early 20s, Emil van Heerden, rock hard lock as well, very built like Franco Mostert.
I thought you
were going to say Jim Hamilton.
He pointed in my direction, but long arms, strong back.
Yeah, but I mean, all of them. We've got exciting young props. Both the young props are. The thing is, our squad is just filled with talent, But yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see where they're going, because I can see the hard work they're putting in now from a young age, where if I look back at my younger age, I didn't put in that much effort and all that hard work, and to see young kids doing that today, it's just...
One more young guy, I think a guy like Sia Masuku.
Oh yeah,
out 10. He's been man of the match for the last 3 games. So he's been quite impressive coming into the. I think he changed our attack quite a bit as well. But yeah, he's been impressive.
What do you look for, Eben, in a player? These young lads coming through. Like, what are the expectations from experienced Springboks like you?
I think that never say die attitude and almost that warrior mindset. That you don't stand back. Obviously, Sia is not the biggest guy, but you can see him flying into tackles, and that's what you want to see in a player. Same with Ethan. The guys, they put their bodies on the line, and that's what is expected of you. But not all the players always do it on the field. And if you want to play at the international level, I think that's a big thing. Rassi and the coaches look at is whether you put your body on the line and where you'll be able to, if you weigh 80 kgs, you'll be able to stop a lock or a prop that's 140 kgs. If Winnie Antonio runs at you, if you're willing to put your body in front of him. And I think that's a big thing. That's, I think, what these youngsters in our team have.
It's class to have you in the studio as well. And I'll just ask this last question because we don't know when we'll get you again. But with everything that's happening, like, Eben, we'll start with you first. Like, the meaning of playing for the Springboks and playing rugby. You've played so many caps, back-to-back World Cups. It's so cool that it gets documented and that we get to see it. People in the UK are going to get to see it soon enough. They're working through a licensing kind of agreement, either with Rugby Pass TV or with one of the kind of TV channels or Prime Video or whatever it is. But just give us an idea of, both of you can, but Eben, we'll start with you, like, central to it, like the meaning of playing for the Springboks. Because when you watch that, right, I'm getting fired up and emotional watching it, but it's you. You know what I mean? It's you, Vinny, like, in it. Just give us an idea of what it's like.
Yeah, I've said this a couple of times. I think the day I won't be selected for the box, it will hurt. That's the reason why I play rugby. To try and perform for my club week in, week out, to eventually, when the international season comes, to be selected and obviously to perform on that level. I want to be playing for the Boks as long as possible. It's been a dream of mine since I was young. I sometimes just lie with myself and think, how did this all happen? Like, how was I able to be a part of 2 winning World Cup squads and be a part of this team for such a long time? And it sometimes do feel unreal. And it's incredible to represent that jersey. And people ask me also, how do you stay motivated? For me, when you put that green jersey of your head, that's all. You don't need any more motivation. Doesn't matter if you play against India or the All Blacks.
Scored a hat-trick against India, just so you know.
Yeah, just you don't want to mention a team that plays rugby. So India probably don't have the best rugby team.
Oh, they're all right. Yeah, we beat them 138-0. They're all right.
But for me, it's people always ask also, how do you get up for smaller games? It's not about that. It's about representing South Africa and putting that jersey that means so much to you. Not disrespecting that jersey, like leaving it in a better place than you found it.
Mm-hmm. Follow that, Vinny.
It's difficult. As a kid, of course, you dream, you watch, or you first watch and then you dream, you know. And for me, my route was also always a little bit different. So for me, it's the proudest moment in my rugby career is putting on the jersey. I was in the setup, moved to Saris, and then that part where Eben said, when the Springbok jersey gets, or you don't play for them anymore, that's going to be the toughest thing for him. And I've experienced that and played a few caps, moved to Saris, and then the rule came in, you know, I couldn't play. And for me, that was tough, you know. You work unbelievably hard at your club to get that reward, but it's not really a reward that's the only reason why you play for it. But the thing is, because it was a dream of mine, that is the motivation. I every time I run into the field, it's like, as a young kid, that was all I wanted to do, and not to work every day as hard as I can. I'll just let myself down, you know. And what Eben said, putting on that jersey is representing not only you, your family, but it's 60-odd million people in South Africa. And for me, that is the greatest achievement and proudest moment I can have.
So cool.
Amazing. Thank you for joining us, lads.
Yeah.
Thank you for breaking my heart in 2019. Really grateful for that one.
Pod. Rugby pod.